In a small, remote town nestled between dense forests and towering mountains, there was a road that everyone knew but few dared to travel. It was called the Shortcut Road, a narrow, winding path that cut through the thick woods, promising to shave an hour off the long, meandering highway that circled the town. But despite its apparent convenience, no one wanted to use it. Rumors circulated for years about strange occurrences on the Shortcut Road. Some said they heard disembodied whispers in the wind, while others claimed to have seen shadowy figures darting between the trees at night. There were even stories of people who took the road and were never seen again. The townspeople all avoided it, choosing the long way around even when time was scarce. It became a silent rule: stay away from the shortcut road after dark. One autumn evening, a young man named Lucas found himself driving home from a weekend trip. The sky was overcast, and the golden leaves that lined the highway were slowly falling, casting eerie shadows on the road. Lucas had heard of the shortcut road before but never paid much attention to the stories. He was a skeptic, always quick to dismiss supernatural tales as nothing more than local folklore. As the sun dipped below the horizon and darkness crept in, Lucas realized he was running late. He had promised his girlfriend, Emma, he'd be home by dinner, and he was already an hour behind schedule. Frustrated with the slow, winding highway, he spotted the faded sign pointing toward the shortcut road. "This'll save me some time," Lucas muttered to himself as he turned off the main highway. The road was narrower than he expected, barely wide enough for his car. Towering trees loomed over both sides, their branches forming a canopy that blocked out what little light remained. The asphalt was cracked, and potholes littered the path. Lucas turned on his high beams and drove cautiously. At first, everything seemed fine, just an old, forgotten road. But as he ventured deeper into the forest, an uneasy feeling settled over him. The air grew colder, and the wind picked up, whispering through the trees. The sound was almost like voices, faint, unintelligible murmurs that seemed to come from the forest itself. Lucas shrugged it off, chalking it up to his imagination. But then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw movement. A dark figure darted between the trees, vanishing as quickly as it appeared. His heart skipped a beat. He kept his eyes on the road but couldn't shake the feeling that something, or someone, was watching him. Minutes passed, and the eerie sensation only grew stronger. The murmurs in the wind grew louder, more insistent. Lucas gripped the steering wheel tighter, his knuckles white with tension. The road seemed to stretch on endlessly, longer than it should have. He glanced at the clock on his dashboard. He had been driving for over 30 minutes, but the town was nowhere in sight. Suddenly, a loud thump echoed from beneath his car, jolting him in his seat. He slammed on the brakes, his heart racing. He had hit something. Slowly, cautiously, he stepped out of the car, his breath visible in the cold night air. The forest was deathly silent. Lucas walked to the front of his car, expecting to see an animal, maybe a deer or a raccoon. But there was nothing. No blood, no body. Just an empty road. His heart pounded in his chest as he scanned the woods, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. That's when he saw it, a figure standing at the edge of the trees. It was tall and thin, its body shrouded in a tattered black cloak. Its face, or what should have been its face, was a hollow void, a black, swirling mass where eyes, nose, and mouth should have been. Lucas froze in place, paralyzed by fear. The figure didn't move, didn't make a sound. It just stood there, staring, or at least, he felt like it was staring right at him. Panicking, Lucas scrambled back into his car, slamming the door shut and locking it. His hands shook as he fumbled to restart the engine. The car roared to life, and without a second thought, he floored the gas pedal, speeding down the narrow road. The trees blurred past him, and the wind howled louder, the voices in the forest now a cacophony of whispers, each one more frantic than the last. The road twisted and turned, and Lucas struggled to keep control of the car as the path seemed to warp and stretch, twisting into impossible angles. Just when he thought he would never escape, he saw a faint light ahead. The town. Relief washed over him as the familiar sight of streetlights and houses appeared in the distance. Lucas sped toward the light, desperate to leave the cursed road behind. He finally pulled into his driveway, breathing heavily, his entire body trembling. The ordeal was over. He was safe. Or so he thought. But as Lucas sat in his car, staring at his house, he noticed something. The street was empty. The lights were on, but the town seemed off. There were no people, no movement. Everything was eerily still. Then, in his rearview mirror, he saw it, the figure from the woods. It was standing at the end of his driveway, its hollow face staring straight at him. And this time, it was coming closer. Lucas tried to scream, but no sound escaped his throat. The figure moved closer and closer, until it was right beside his car window. He squeezed his eyes shut, praying it was all a nightmare. When he finally opened them, the figure was gone. But the voices in the wind remained, whispering in his ear, telling him he had never really left the shortcut road. And he never would. From that day on, Lucas was never the same. He became obsessed with the road, convinced that it was cursed, that it was watching him. He started hearing the voices everywhere, at home, at work, even in his dreams. And every night, the figure would return, standing at the edge of his vision, just waiting. The townspeople noticed Lucas's decline, but no one knew how to help him. Eventually, he disappeared, just like the others who had taken the shortcut road before him. Some say his spirit still haunts the road, forever trapped between two worlds, doomed to wander the cursed path for eternity. And the figure? It's still there, waiting for the next person foolish enough to take the shortcut road.